Welcome back to Between Bells. Each year, Spotify conducts a study called Culture Next to better understand the world's most influential generations. This year, the focus was on Gen Z, and based on the study, those between the ages of 15 and 25 are ready to rebuild society from the ground up. Here to give us more details on the report is Lee Brown, VP and Global Head of Advertising Business at Spotify. Great to have you with us today. Thanks for sharing this report with us. Now, how is Gen Z gearing up to change the world? What are they inspired to do based on this study?
Well, thank you so much for having me. We're very excited to be here, and we love your show. This is the second report that we've released. It's basically a continuation of our efforts that we started last year. Gen Z and millennials are so hard to reach and yet so coveted by marketers that when we produced this report last year, marketers were very interested in the insights and the creative tips that we provided to them. With nearly 300 million listeners on Spotify. In over 92 markets, we certainly have Gen Zs and millennials tuning in every single day. In fact, 72% of our free listeners are under the age of 35, and our average podcast listener is 26. So this hard to reach, highly coveted demographic is showing up on Spotify every day to listen. And we are encouraging marketers, this is the place for them to be heard by providing them these insights and these tips from this generation.
Well, Lee, let's get into some of those tips. What are some of the key learnings
Sure.
for marketers to apply for Gen Z?
Yeah, so the first one we'd say is this notion of pass the mic, which is, this generation is looking for marketers to involve community leaders as well as activists in supporting the causes that the brand cares most about. And so that pass the mic movement is something that this generation is highly encouraging. It leads into the second one, which is really around supporting movements, not moments. And so, breast cancer does not go away when the pink ribbons get put up, and Black history is just as important in August as it is in February. And they want to see marketers that care about the causes throughout the course of the year and not just looking for a timely hashtag. And so that's something that marketers can take heed of and incorporate into their planning. And then lastly is engaging in the theater of the mind and making sure that they're using audio to transport them back to another point in time that they can recall, whether it's a warm voice leading them through a familiar scene or, the pop of a bubble, pop of a bottle and bubbles rushing out.
Yeah, that's really interesting context. I do wonder, what does kind of the future of audio advertising look like to you? We're also used to listening to hosts of podcasts reading out advertisements, but how does that become more personalized, and how does audio advertising really transform over the next couple of years?
Yeah, streaming audio is the place to be for innovation, for creative, and for engaging. More and more people are using streaming audio to find their passions, to discover new communities, and this is where marketers are starting to lean in. We're now able to provide the targeting as well as the interest-based level graph for marketers to engage in audio in a relevant and new way.
So the one part of this study also says getting to know and appreciate mom and dad through music, technology, and podcasts is a part of the goals for Gen Z. What exactly does that mean? How is Gen Z really connecting with other generations?
It was interesting. 64% of them said that they really got to know their parents better by listening to their parents' playlists and their music, while 78% of the parents said that music is the main way of bonding with their kids. And so you can see that this audio, this platform is, strengthening their connections and bringing them together. That was something that we saw with the shifts in listening behavior during COVID, that more people were listening together and in groups at home, and that was what was bringing them together.
Lee, the top playlists among Gen Z are quite different from each other, it seems. Today's top hits, Rap Caviar, and then the Sleep playlist. What does that say about why Gen Z is turning to Spotify, turning to audio forms of entertainment?
Yeah, All the Feels is also in there. I don't think it made the top three, but certainly Gen Z, we want to offer the widest array of content, whether it's music or podcasts, to this audience, and let the listeners decide on what they want to listen to. And so those were the three that were popping for this year.
And Lee, in terms of the top podcasts as well, again, across the board, Call Her Daddy, TED Talks Daily, what are some takeaways from the top podcasts that have been listened to?
some Harry Potter in
Yes,
there as well, I think.
exactly.
Yeah, this year has been a little bit different in terms of consumption just because of the world around us. And I think you're finding that Gen Z and millennials are really leaning into news and information. They're leaning into entertainment. They're leaning into self-improvement, cooking, home improvement, and so forth. And so you see that reflected in some of the charts and the top podcasts as well as music being consumed.
I do wonder, since, as you mentioned, it is quite different and anomalous times right now. You've conducted the study last year. What are some of the biggest changes or differences that you saw this year because of the new ways that people are discovering new content given this global pandemic?
It's fascinating. Thank you, Nora. Like last year, we dug into the trends, and what I would say the main takeaway for this year is that those trends have actually accelerated. And so everything that we were seeing last year has just been sped up and accelerated faster. That's the key. That's one of the key takeaways that we're seeing from this year. The second one is that when we interviewed the respondents in January of this year, and then when we re-looked at them in August, and we went back and engaged with them in August of this year, because we wanted to take time and be paused around the social activity that was happening, the pandemic, and make sure that we were able to represent their answers and these trends accurately. One thing that was interesting was that 1 in 3 don't plan to go to college and plan to start their own business, while 65% of the respondents say that they are already or plan to be their own boss. And 59% of them in August, more than in January, said they want to start their own business. So they are certainly here to do business, and they're looking forward to reimagining the future and taking the reins on rebuilding society.
Well, Lee, for the younger generation who is looking to maybe take an alternative path as you laid out, what is your number one piece of advice for advertisers, for marketers trying to capitalize specifically on that facet of how the younger generations are thinking right now?
Yeah, we would advise marketers just to be authentic with their messaging, to support the movement and not moments, and to make sure to leverage the insights that we're providing in this report to accurately reflect their brand message to engage with this audience.
All right, Lee, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate your insight. That's Lee Brown, VP and Global Head of Advertising Business at Spotify. Thanks.